I am at a random park. I literally searched the nearest park in the area that I was in, and it's pretty nice, pretty peaceful out here. I wanted to come out here and shoot a quick video before my battery dies and before it gets too dark. I wanted to do a story time. I think it's time that I share certain things that maybe I wasn't ready to share months ago or a year ago. And that's pretty much about something tragic that happened the beginning of last year that kind of affected me in a major way. So my battery is on 19%, so I'm gonna try to get this recorded quickly and not talk too long. I wasn't really doing YouTube when my grandma passed. YouTube wasn't a thing when my dad passed, or my cousin, or my grandpa. But there was something different about this loss that I feel like has affected me and really affected me when it happened. So my uncle passed January of last year, January 18th of last year. And I remember that day. It was a day that I worked. I was in the process of consistently posting content on YouTube every day. And this is the video that I uploaded that day. I remember getting a phone call from my grandpa. And I'm not gonna lie, there are moments when I'm like, okay, I'll just call him back later, because my grandpa calls a lot. And of course, you never know when someone's calling, if it's an emergency, if it's just whatever. So it's best that you answer. But that day, I missed his call. I don't know if it was once or twice, but I missed his call. And he was trying to call me to tell me or to ask me if I could go by and check on my uncle, because he had been trying to call him and he wasn't answering. That day, my uncle had gone to the hospital and they sent him home the same day. So it wasn't until hours later that I got a phone call from my mom. And my mom is someone that I rarely don't pick up her phone calls, right? So she called me. It was around like 7 p.m. I think I was doing DoorDash at the time. And I remember the area that I was in and everything. And she asked me if I could go by and check on my uncle because they still haven't been able to get a hold of him. So I was like, okay, cool. Immediately, it was something about that moment intuitively where I felt like, okay, something may be wrong. Because my uncle's at home. He got dropped off at home after the hospital, and they've been trying to reach him all day and he's not answering. So I had to prepare myself for what I might or could possibly run into. Still expecting, the best, not hoping for the worst, but realizing that there's a possibility that it could be something different. So I drop off my delivery. It was for Home Slice. I dropped that off. It was getting dark outside. I drove over to the house, and as I'm pulling into the driveway, it was just like a different feeling. It was like an eerie feeling. And I don't know if that was God just like preparing me, but there's also a cat. I'll never forget, a cat that was at the door. Which they always say cats or animals, but especially cats, just have a keen sense of smell, have a sense of knowing when something is not right. And so immediately I was like, okay, there's another sign. Screen door was closed, but the main door was open. And I know I visit my uncle a lot, so I know that once it gets dark, he usually closes the door. But during the day, he'll have the door open and the screen and the porch light was off. And I'm like, it's dark. The porch light will be on at this time. So I already knew it was something, right? And so I walked in very calmly, but I remember my heart kind of racing. And immediately when I walked in the house, my uncle is sitting on the couch. Sitting in the chair somewhere that he never sits, right as you walk into the door. He's sitting there in the dark, with the phone in between his legs on the floor. And I called his name, no response. So I knew immediately that it was something. And me, I'm such an overthinker. I'm always thinking, and of course I've dealt with death in the past, but I knew that if they had been trying to reach him for hours and he didn't answer, and now he's not answering me, that he could have been sitting there for a while. So I already figured my uncle was there, sitting there, lifeless, you know? Not to mention he was about, I don't know, he weighed almost maybe 300 pounds, maybe 300 pounds, you know? And so, yeah, I took CPR. Yeah, I did all of those things once in like 2019. But it's a lot different when you're in the situation, when you have to actually try to save someone's life, and someone that you know, someone that you care about. So I instantly panicked, but of course I knew, okay, the phone's right here, let me call. Well, the phone was dead. Let me get my cell phone, call 911. So as I'm talking to 911, they're telling me what to do. And, you know, I'm like, he's sitting up. How am I supposed to get him down on the ground? He weighs this much. I'm crying. I'm just all over the place. And so they tell me to grab him by his ankles and slide him down to the ground. They say, you're not going to hurt him. Just pull his ankles and slide him down to the ground. Luckily, it was carpet there, you know, and so I did that, and he slid down pretty easy, okay? Now he's laying flat on the ground. And so they're telling me that I have to pretty much pump his chest. And I know it's a good amount of times. I can't even think how many it is now, and I just took CPR not too long ago again. But you have to pump until they get there. So I'm using all my strength. And I just feel like this is pointless. He's already gone, y'all. Like, I just felt like I'm just doing this and just there's no point. And so I'm trying, and they get there quickly. I made sure the screen was unlocked before I started, and I still have them on speaker, and I'm pumping. And you're doing great, and you're doing everything that you're supposed to, and okay. And so when they come and they take over, and immediately I call my mom, I call Dominique, and I just told them, like, I feel like he's gone. You know, I know that there's a short window when someone is unconscious that you have to revive them. Like, I just know those things. And anyway, so I'm trying to keep the story short because my battery is dying. But so, you know, my mom, of course, is on the way. Dominique is on the way. They contact my grandpa, everybody. And they're there. EMS is there at least for an hour, right? Doing whatever. I don't know what they're doing, but they're in the room trying to bring him back to life. In the meantime, they're asking me, because he was in the hospital earlier that day, like, where are his prescriptions? Where's his paperwork? What medication? Like, I didn't know any of these things. And I'm looking at them like, y'all just need to worry about trying to save his life, or just say straight up what it is, instead of having me try to figure out where the medicine is or the paperwork. I don't know, you know? And I felt like they were just, and I don't know, you know, I don't know anything about the medical field or anything like that, but I just felt like they were stalling until my grandpa got there. I felt like they already knew that he was gone, and they didn't want to let me know. And so the entire time I'm just already thinking, like, oh, another death, another Like, it was just a lot. And I never thought that I would have to experience finding someone deceased, someone that I knew and loved and cared about, and me try to be the one to save his life. And a part of me for the longest felt like it's my fault that I didn't answer the phone call sooner, because I could have done something. And then part of me is like, you did what you could. It was his time, you know. But that's something that stuck with me so much that I was a bit paranoid. I'm not gonna lie. And this is just me being honest. So at the time I was cleaning, I was in the cleaning business, and I cleaned for Airbnb. And with Airbnb clients, you never know what they're there for. They can stay in there for a night, for whatever, to do drugs, to, you know, whatever. And so there was one time, and I'm sorry, backtrack. So this was before my uncle passed, because I remember telling him about this. I got to the Airbnb one day, and there was a smell. Like, I thought it was, okay, either the trash or the garbage disposal. It was really strong. And so I had to let the host know, like, there's a really foul odor in this Airbnb, and I'm gonna try to figure out where it's coming from, but I haven't been able to find out yet. And so we're communicating back and forth. I take out the trash, I clean out the trash can, I clear the disposal. Still the strong smell. And I cleaned the entire place, still strong. And I left, and I told him, okay, I cleaned, I did everything. You got some, like, I sprayed bleach, I used Pine Sol, like whatever I could, and the smell is still in there. I just want to let you know in case you get complaints. And so as I'm leaving and I'm loading my car, there are police officers next door, and they asked me, like, do you know the last time that you've seen your neighbor? And I was explaining to them, like, I'm just here to clean. I clean here often. I haven't seen him. His car was outside. And so immediately, intuitively, again, I'm like, please don't tell me this man is in there deceased, and that's what I'm smelling. I had just watched Jeffrey Dahmer, like maybe a month before that. So that triggered something, because I was like, they were talking about how they would smell the smells coming from his apartment. And so I immediately said, that's what it is. Next day, the host let me know they found the man deceased in the Airbnb. And so this was before my uncle passed. And then I would pull up to different properties, and there would be like a dead squirrel, or a dead, like, just a lot of death. And I was like, I don't know if this is a way of, if these are signs of, like, somebody is about to pass. Like, I always pay attention to signs. And I remember talking to my uncle before he passed, because we had gotten closer. We were having more conversation. And that's why too, I feel like some people know their time is ending soon, because the relationship dynamic sometimes changes, just so you can have that memory of that person. I remember us having conversation, and there was one day where I was there, and he really needed to talk. He really was talking and telling me about my dad and their childhood and all of these things. And it was a really, really good moment that I'll never forget. He took me and Dominique to the airport. He kept my car. He was pretty much our chauffeur. He picked us up and dropped us off. And he kept my car while we were in Puerto Rico the prior year. And so, you know, all these things where we were just connecting and bonding on a different level. Your uncle sometimes is like, or your grandpa is pretty much like the person after your dad. And of course, my dad is not here. So it feels good to still kind of have that connection. And so yeah. And so I remember telling him about that. After he passed, there was a time where I went to the Airbnb, and I remember, like, checkout was at 11. And there would be a lot of times where they wouldn't check out until sometimes almost 3 when they're supposed to be the next person checking in. And if I had 4 Airbnbs that day or 3, I had to get them all clean between 11 and 3. And so I would get to the last property and the person would still be in there. And so it's frustrating. And so there was a time where there was someone, like I walked in, there was luggage still by the door. And so I was like, okay, someone's in here. And it was always weird to me because I was like, I don't know who's in here. I don't know if these people on drugs. You know, you just never know what you're walking into. And so I had to let the host know. And I peeked into the bedroom and it looked like the guy was laying out. It looked like the guy was laying in the bed with his chest like up. I wouldn't say, or caved in. It was one of them. I don't remember. But it just looked weird. Almost like he did some drugs. He took his last puff or last and whatever. And he just got stuck like that. And that's what my eyes saw. And so immediately I reached out to the host and I was like, the guest is still in here. I don't feel comfortable going in there because, and I don't want to like think the worst, but you might want to check on him because I don't know if he's deceased or what. And which is weird because of course you want to call 911, but it's like I was so scared to even go and look. And so I let him handle it. And turns out the dude was okay. But that's what I saw. And so I started to feel like I was starting to be paranoid after finding my uncle. And I started feeling like I was going to walk into somebody being deceased in the shower, being deceased in the bed or on the floor or something. Like, I don't even know if I've shared that with anyone, but it was just it was very traumatic for me. And so I feel like a lot of it I still tried to suppress. I still tried to not talk about it as much because I felt like no one understood. Yes, people understand that death is hard, but when you find someone and it's like that image is forever ingrained in your head. And not to mention, like, it's almost like you see certain features of your uncle and they look like your dad, and then you think about your dad and when he passed and how he looked, you know what I'm saying? And so it was all just very triggering. And so it affected me in a way that it made me very, very, very emotional, very I felt alone. Even with having people in my life, you feel alone when you feel like you're going through something on your own. And so a lot of last year when y'all saw me like being depressed or being stressed or going through things, it was a mixture of that and other things that I don't know if I'll talk about those things, but it was just a lot. And so I wanted to come today and I'm glad I was able to get through this without crying, without being emotional. I'm just working on personally trying to be strong and build that courage and being able to talk and express those things, because I know that I'm not the only one going through something traumatic. No matter what it is, it's trauma, it's your trauma, and it's our responsibility to kind of work ourselves through it so that it doesn't consume us and it doesn't drain us to the point to where we can't get through life. But yeah, I wanted to share that story with y'all, and I wanted to do that for me so that I'm able to continue to move forward on my journey of healing and of just continuing to work on peace within my life. And hopefully this video helps someone. Let me know if y'all enjoy these story times, enjoy these conversations, and I will definitely do more of them. But it's a bug on my, okay. But until next time, y'all, it's about to get dark and I'm not trying to be out here. So I will see y'all in the next video.
I thought the man supposed to do this drawing though. going back to Mexico.
You know how to do it?
He's going to Mexico.
Yeah. Because you told him to Mexico.
When he get back, he's going to jail.
But you just on fake watch.
Want to find somebody else?
LC say this is a fake watch.